Does your stitching look like this? A little wavy, a little uneven? Are you a little frustrated? We've all been there. But today I'll show you 5 simple methods to ensure that perfectly straight, professional looking stitching every time. Say goodbye to crooked lines and hello to perfectly straight lines. And stick around to the end because I saved the easiest and my personal favorite for last. Now, let's dive in. Even if you've struggled before, these methods are practically fail-proof. And with only one exception, these utilize things that you already have around the house. Okay, so the first method is utilizing a rubber band, which I'm sure you have around the house somewhere. Now you can either use a thick one, like this, or just a thin one. Whatever fits around your machine. Now in order to use this method, you're just going to take your rubber band and put it around the base or bed of the machine and line it along the needle plate where you want your seam allowance to be. Now you want to make sure that the rubber band that you choose is reasonably tight without being too tight that you can't move it. This way it stays in place and you can line your fabric up to that and get a nice straight line as you're running your fabric through the machine lined up to the rubber band. Now the second method is by using tape. Now I recommend that you use either electrical tape or washi tape because it has less sticky residue that could be left on your machine, but really any tape will work. Now what you're going to do with this method is simply pull off a strip of tape, line it up where you want your seam allowance to be, make sure that it's straight, and then you can line up your fabric to the edge of the tape to ensure a straight line while stitching. Now the third method is an elastic headband. This one is similar to using the rubber band, except it's a lot softer and easier to get over the machine. You're going to do the same thing as with the rubber band and just place it over the bed of your machine and line it up along the needle plate where you want your seam allowance to be. Then you can line your fabric up to the edge of the headband and sew your straight line. Now you want to make sure when you do this that you pick a headband that is tight enough to stay in place. As you can see, this one is not, so I got another. If you're finding these methods simple and helpful, please like and subscribe to support the channel. Now the fourth method is by using a magnetic seam guide. It has a big magnet on the bottom which helps it attach to your machine and stay in place. So you'd put this on the machine where you want your seam allowance to be and then lift up this lever and you can line your fabric right up to the edge of the magnetic seam guide, and then this lever will keep your fabric in place as you sew your straight line. By adjusting this lever, you can decide how much you want this lever to actively hold down the fabric or if you want it to just glide underneath. Now the magnet is pretty strong, so it can be a little bit difficult to get it adjusted where you want, but it is an effective method for ensuring a straight line when sewing. Now, if you're interested in this, I'll put a link down in the description below. Now our fifth and final method requires no equipment or extra accessories at all. And that is simply to use the existing marks on your needle plate to line up the fabric where you want your seam allowance to be, and then focus on guiding your fabric along that line. Now, if you make sure to pay attention to where the fabric is being fed instead of looking at the needle, and just be sure to actively guide the fabric to stay along that line, then you can ensure a straight stitch without having to use any other gadgets. This is personally my favorite because it doesn't use any other items. Generally, I find this relatively effective, and instead of relying on something else to keep my stitching straight, I just make sure to pay attention to where the fabric is going.
That's why I like this method, and it works well for me, but if it doesn't work for you, there's 4 other methods you can try.
Now let me know in the comments what's been your biggest challenge in sewing a straight line. Also, do you have a favorite method? Or do you have another method that you prefer that was not featured in today's video? If so, let us know in the comments so we can learn from each other. Now if you got value out of today's video, then you may want to check out this one. And for other beginner tips, check out this playlist.